my eye on Bitcoin SV. Just for the record, this is not financial advice. So let's start by looking at the logo, and I must admit that I really like it. It's simple, it's elegant, and anyone familiar with the original Bitcoin logo will notice that Bitcoin SV doesn't have an orange circle. Instead, it has a bright golden circle, perhaps symbolic of a bright future. The B in Bitcoin SV is straight, unlike Bitcoin Cash, which leans backwards, and Bitcoin, which leans forwards. Also, this B is a capital letter, which matches the B in this logo. In case you were wondering, the SV stands for Satoshi's vision. And this is a vision that can be seen in the white paper. And in summary, it's a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And the paper is definitely worth a read if you want to understand how it works. Now this logo with the awesome dragon is more for the miners who validate transactions on the Bitcoin SV network, while the left logo is what the consumers are going to see. And Bitcoin SV, it's got a really fascinating history. It originated on November the 15th of 2018 from a Bitcoin Cash hard fork. This was a time commonly referred to as the hash war. Basically, there were four main people in Bitcoin Cash who had differences of opinion. So you had Roger Ver and Jian Wu on one side, and Calvin Ayre and Craig Wright on the other side. I think it's very important to understand who these people are. So I'm going to start with the self-made billionaire Calvin Ayre. And he was the son of a poor farmer and became a very successful businessman who made a lot of money from an online gambling website called Bodog. He also owns CoinGeek, which is a large crypto mining company and a great place for crypto news. I'd also like to shine a light on his philanthropy. So he's done child welfare, animal welfare, education, emergency response and social development. And this is the man here. I think he's a forward-thinking entrepreneur and an all-round nice guy. We then have Dr. Craig Wright. Bring that down. So here he is, the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. This is a really interesting story by a journalist called Andrew O'Hagan. I'm not sure how much of it is true or not, but it makes a very interesting read, and it goes into Craig's past and how all of these different people fit into this gigantic puzzle. Really highly recommend reading it. I particularly liked how the police were chasing him and he hid in a toilet cubicle. That's got to be my favourite part, especially because rather than locking the door, he left it partly open because he figured that the police would just look at the doors with the engage sign. Pure genius. And he really is a genius with lots of degrees, and his contribution to the development of Bitcoin, one of the most revolutionary technologies ever made, should not go unnoted. To scroll down. So on the other side of the hash war, we had Roger Ver, an outspoken advocate for Bitcoin Cash, and he's the CEO of Bitcoin.com. That's right, not BitcoinCash.com, but Bitcoin.com. And people have complained about him using his website to trick people into thinking Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin and labelling BTC, which is Bitcoin, as Bitcoin Core. So this is this bit of text here. And next we have Jihan Wu. Oops. He's the co-founder of Bitmain, which was a really big company that makes antminers, but Bitmain is nowhere near as powerful or as influential as it once was, and Jihan Wu is no longer on the executive board as far as I know. There's also been a lot of disgruntled consumers who have complained about Bitmain's business practices. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I do believe that Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto. There are people, quite a lot of people in fact, who don't believe this. There's one conspiracy that Paul LaRue is the mastermind behind Bitcoin. He's a guy described as being a brilliant programmer who delved into a web of criminal activity, including gold smuggling, dealing drugs and guns, bribing Somali pirates, and hiring hitmen to kill people. Could it be that he created Bitcoin as a tool for money laundering? I'm not so sure, but it's an interesting story nevertheless. There's also a conspiracy that points to David Kleiman being Satoshi, and I'm sure there are many more conspiracies. A cryptocurrency exchange called Binance delisted Bitcoin SV a few months back, and Kraken followed suit. Now, I think this was very unfair. Dr. Craig Wright has suffered a lot of verbal abuse. He's been called a liar, a fraudster, and words I don't want to even say. This is pure slander, it's criminal, and Craig Wright has every right to defend his civil liberties. I think it's okay for people to share their thoughts and opinions, but it should never be stated as a fact, especially when there is no solid evidence. Nowadays there's a lot of fake news and people simply jump into conclusions. Personally, I don't think it was a very good idea to delist Bitcoin SV based on a Twitter poll. Fair enough if some terms and conditions were breached, but it shouldn't be down to a popularity contest, especially when there are people with financial incentives. Once it got delisted, surprise, surprise, the price of Bitcoin Cash went up. I think that if you don't like something, just don't use it. It's pretty simple, really. Fortunately, there are crypto exchanges that do support Bitcoin SV, so we'll come down here. So Bitcoin SV, not doing too bad today. And we'll scroll into the markets. So we've got Coinbean, OKX, and there's KuCoin here. Quite like that one. And if we want to have a look at the size of these markets, see if we can do this. So if we go up to here, we'll go by adjusted volume, it makes more sense. So we have OKX, so they're an exchange that have Bitcoin SV trading pairs. They're currently the number 2 exchange in the world. We have Coinbean at number 10, and where's it gone? There we go. We have KuCoin, and I believe, yes, so that sits at number 30. That's even bigger than Kraken, which has been around since July 2011. So there's plenty of choice for people still. In fact, there's quite a lot to like about Bitcoin SV. So recently there's been something announced called Paymail, which was created by the Money Button team. works similar to Unstoppable Domains in that it makes using crypto more user-friendly by replacing the long strings of numbers and letters into human-readable words. And in fact, I've gone on to Money Button, and so that would be my Money Button here. And we can create a pay mail just by clicking on a link. We can type any word we want, so I'll just go for snot, and we could buy that for just $1. Just makes it easy for remembering what your thing is. But we can have anything really. So BSV, I think this is the most expensive one I've seen, $50 million. I don't think anything gets more expensive than that. And other interesting things to look out for is there's something called Kaching. It's a plastic card that people can load the Bitcoin SV onto and then make contactless payments. Oh, and how did I almost forget that? So the founding president of the Bitcoin Association, that'll be Jimmy Wen. Hope I pronounced that right. He's also the CEO of N-Chain, so this is the guy. And it's a company that does the research and development for Bitcoin SV. He's a really cool guy. And overall, I think that Bitcoin SV has got a really good future ahead. You only have to ask yourself, is there a market for a blockchain that has massive on-chain scaling, that also follows the Bitcoin white paper and its protocols, that works with regulators, is transparent, and does not support criminal activities? As you can probably tell, this will be my first YouTube video. Please like, subscribe and comment. Hope you enjoyed it, and please let me know what other cryptocurrency you want me to talk about. And one last thing actually. So January the 1st of 2020, it's an important date. If you haven't heard of the Tulip Trust, I'd recommend researching it, because it could have a very big impact on the price of Bitcoin and the price of Bitcoin SV. Certainly worth looking into.